Well, hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about histograms. So this comes out of lesson 12-2. Histograms, like history. Histograms. So let me give you a definition of histograms and give you kind of a relationship to another kind of graph that you've seen. And then we'll talk how to make one. And then we will actually practice doing one. So let's get a definition to histogram. So it says it's a type of bar graph used to display numerical data. So I'm going to highlight that in a different color. So numbers. That have been organized into equal intervals. Change the color on that one too. Okay. The height of the bar, or the height of each bar, indicates how many times numbers appeared in that interval. And we call that frequency. Now here comes the important thing about this bar graph. Let's see, let's do bright color. Bars touch. Because one interval because one interval ends where the next one begins. In other words, there's no gap in the data coverage. Okay, so let me just kind of break this down into a little user-friendly. You cannot do a histogram on colors or favorite sports or anything like that. It has to be about numbers only. And intervals means it's not counting like we were doing with the dot plot or line plot, where it's what are we counting by. It's an interval is a range of numbers. So we might have a range of 5 numbers or 10 numbers, like counting by tens. And that's how we are going to do our bars. So frequency is how often something shows up. All right, so this might be, when you hear the word bar, starting to hear, okay, wait. I think I know what this is. This is a bar graph. But let's compare quickly what a bar graph looks like compared to a histogram. So this is a bar graph on the left. Okay, and we have, let's do one on a basic one that a lot of people do. So we'll have favorite colors. And then on the bottom, we'll talk about colors. And we gave 4 different choices. We could look at red. How many people like red? How many people liked blue? How many people liked green? And how many people liked orange? And then we could have options here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we'll label every other one. And then we'll label this one frequency. And then what would we do is draw some graphs, some bars. So red went up to 3. Blue went up to 5. And each one of these bars is going to be unique in terms of it doesn't touch the other one, red doesn't lead into blue, and so on and so forth. Green 1, which is a shame. I think everybody looks good in green. And then orange. And we'll have 2. But it's a very visual way of presenting information, and you can see real clearly that blue was the favorite color in the group of people that they talked to. We could count up 3 and 5 is 8, 9, 10, 11, so 11 people were interviewed to ask what was their favorite color. The least favorite color in this group was green. Okay? So how would a histogram differ from a bar graph? Well, it actually has a lot of similarities. We're going to be dealing with positive numbers, so it's a first quadrant graph, which is the same thing as a bar graph. We have a title. This one is going to be wins for basketball teams. Label this as our histogram. We're going to have on the left side, we'll do teams, teams frequency. So, in other words, how often did each of the teams win? And we'll have counting by 2s all the way from 2 up to 12. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And then in terms of counting by intervals, we're going to put our numbers here. Let's see, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These kind of get spread out a little bit because we have a lot of data to share. So we have 11 to 20, 21 to 30. So if you count 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, there's actually a span or range of 10 numbers in each of these bars we're going to graph. 31 to 40. Notice how I'm alternating so that the numbers don't run into each other. A way to prevent that is to make larger spaces between your intervals. So for you micro writers, you're going to have to learn how to write big on these. 51 to 60. Let's do just monochrome with purple. So there were 2 teams that scored 11 to 20 wins. And there were 4 teams that scored 21 to 30 wins. And there were 4 teams that scored 31 to 40 wins. And there were 10 teams that scored 41 to 50 wins. And and there were 8 teams that scored 51 to 60 wins. So what you see is the numbers, when one number group ends, the next number group begins. There's no gap in counting. I literally go from 11 to 60 in groups of 10. So it's still bars. You can still see what was the tallest, but this is actually going to reveal a little bit of information here. It's showing you how your numbers either build up or come down, if there's a peak in the middle or whatnot. So this is just an interesting way. Now, we tend to use histograms when we have a lot of data, so a lot. So I'm going to introduce you to something called a frequency table, which I think you guys have used before. So let me go to the next screen and let's talk about how do we actually make a histogram. Now, I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen these before. Like I said, with Common Core, things have switched around so much, I'm just never sure anymore. Okay. All right, so number one, we're going to look at the minimum and maximum values. And we're going to do just like we did with our line plot. We're going to use it to determine the intervals. So we're going to determine intervals, and with those two guys, it's going to be a range. Okay. So that's going to start me off. Then I'm going to create a frequency table. Okay, so basically, all you're going to do with a frequency table is you're going to create the intervals, and then you're just going to make a tally mark when you go through your list of data, how many times each number shows up. You know, as it shows up, just kind of like with the line plot, as you saw the data, you made a mark. We're going to just make a tally mark, and when we're done with all the pieces of data, then what we're going to end up doing is counting them up and writing the number in a column called frequency, and it's going to be the actual number, not tally marks anymore. So we're going to create the frequency table to see how many values fit into each interval. And then we're just going to create a first quadrant graph. So I'm going to give you kind of what it's going to look like generically. This is where your equal intervals are going to be. That doesn't look really equal. So these are your equal intervals. And on the other side, you're going to have your frequency. So I'm going to give you some titles here. So we're going to have some sort of title here. Underneath, what do those numbers represent? Those are going to be your actual intervals. This is going to be your frequency. Now, a lot of times you're going to actually use words like number of, and we could have written on that other one number of wins. Okay? You're going to have a title, some sort of the graph. So what we know what's going on in that graph. And that's basically what it's going to do, okay? So the last step is to draw bars for each interval. At a height that matches its frequency. In other words, make the bars tall as the frequency number tells you. Okay. Now, remember, very, 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 very important, bars touch. Okay, so one blends right into the other. All right, you ready to make one? I sure am. All right, let's get to this. So we're going to get a set of directions that say, really boring, create a histogram. Now, though, we're going to interpret the results. So just like we were talking about with the line plot. If you hear that rustling, that's my cats playing on my papers. All right, so here we go. Are you guys ready? This is a ton of data. Test scores. So maybe teacher, a couple classes, whatever, wrote out test scores for students, and here they are. Are you ready? 72, 97, 80, 86, 92, 98, and 88. Next row, 76, 79, 82, 91, 83, 90, 76. Whew, here we go. Another row, 81, 94, 96, 92, 72, 83, 85. We got one more, and then we'll be done. We have 65, 91, 92, 68, 86, 89, and 97. So now I'm going to close this all off as a box. Okay. So first thing we need to do is to get that idea of the range, what we're going to count by. And you don't even need to do a range, to be honest with you. We just need to find what the smallest number is. So let's look. We have numbers in the 70s, 90s, 80s, 70s, 90s, 80s, 70, 90s, 80s. Ooh, 60. We have 65 and 68, so 65. Now, I kept saying 90s, so that means my max is going to be in the 90s. So let's see. 97, 98. Ooh, that's the best one so far. Do I have a 99? Going once. Going twice. Nope. 98's our winner. All right, so I got to get from 65 to 98. Now, you remember how we talked about with the line plots? When you're doing your number line, we really are trying to stick around 10 tick marks on the number line. When it comes to histograms, they really don't want you to have more than 6 intervals. So let's try this. If we counted by 5s, so I'm just going to play with this for a moment. So 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. Then we would have 70, 71, 72, 73, 74. 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. So you're starting to see a pattern here. And then that would go 80 to 84, 85 to 90, to 89, sorry. Got myself too far ahead. We've got 90 to 94, and then we would have 95 to 99. So that would give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know what? After all this labor, let's just go do it. I think that's fair. All right, so those are going to be the scores. You know what? I'm going to see. These are going to be the scores. And then we're going to do our tally. That's going to be our biggest column because I don't know how many marks we're going to have. And then last is going to be frequency. The only reason why this is going to look large is because frequency is a large word. And then this would be our test scores. Of course, I ran myself out of room here, so I'm going to write, because that's how I play this game, test scores. So that would be the grand total we would have here. So what I'm going to do is draw lines to separate each of these. If we count it by tens, this would be really short, only like 4 bars. So even though this may be a little too much, it's going to do it. So what I'm going to do is just make a tick mark for each number that I see. 72, 97, 80, 86, 92, 98, 88, 76, 79, 82, 91, 83, 90, 76, 81, 94, 96, 92. So remember, when we have a group of 5, we slice through them. Let's see, so that was 92, 72, 83, 85, let's see, 65, finally one in that group, 91, 92, 68, 86, 89, and 97. So we're going to count up. Let's see, that's 2, 2, 3, 6, 4, 7, and 4. So when I create my histogram, I'm going to do it over here. And we're going to call it test scores. Okay. And we're going to create the intervals here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 intervals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to call these scores. So this would be the 65 to 69. This would be 70 to 74. See how now things are going to start running into each other? That's why I might dip down. 75 to 79. I might go back up again. 80 to 84. Go back down. 85 to 89. Up. 90 to 94. Down. 95 to 99. Now, as tall as we need to get on the left is up to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm just going to count by 2s. Now, what are we going to list over there? We're going to say number of students. So what we're looking at is how many students scored in each of these intervals, right? Number of students. Makes more sense than just saying frequency. And then we're going to draw our bars. And I'm just going to draw them all the same color. So for the first one, 65, we went up to 2. And then in the 70s, we're also at 2, 70 to 74. And those bars should be the same width. And then we've got, actually, let's do this a different way. We'll just do it this way. There's our first bar. And then we've got also another 2 for 70 to 74. For 75, we go up to 3. So that looks, actually, I don't like that. Let's take that off. We'll go back to the other way. The reason why I don't like is how I wrote my numbers. If I wrote my numbers in the spaces between the tick marks, maybe, but I kind of blew it. So bear with me here. Okay. Next guy goes up to, ooh, wow, all the way up to 6. And then the 85 went to 4. The 90 went up to 7. That was the big one. And then the 95 went to 4. Okay. So you see there weren't as many students who were scoring low as there were students who were scoring high. I mean, look at that. 80 to 99 was pretty good. All right, so let's draw some conclusions. Let's draw them in purple, shall we? So most students scored above 90%, or excuse me, 80%, 90%. That would be awesome. So there's a conclusion. The fewest number of students scored between 65% to 74%. Okay. The number of students increased as the scores increased. So more and more students did better. Now, we can talk about some things we don't see. No one scored 100%. We can say no one scored below 60%, or below 65%. And it is possible when we do a histogram to have a blank spot, okay? And there aren't any blank spots, right? So we don't have any curves at all, so no curveballs. So you could say there's no outliers. Let's see, where am I going to squeeze that? Maybe I'll squeeze it up at the top. No outliers. Okay? All right, and we'll keep working on this in class too. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.